In 16th century Japan, a storm of chaos swept across the land. The people called this era the Sengoku Jidai, a time when warlords clashed endlessly and only the strongest survived. And amidst this avalanche of blood and ambition, rose a name that echoed like thunder across the provinces: Takeda Shingen, the Tiger of Kai. From a young age, Shingen was unlike any other child. While others played with wooden toys, he stood alone in the training yard, his sharp eyes fixed on a future only he could see. His teacher once whispered, "Inside that boy's gaze lies the will of a ruler." He was right. As Shingen grew, his brilliance became undeniable. His sword was precise, his discipline unbreakable, and his mind sharper than any blade he wielded. He didn't just want to be a warrior. He wanted to change the fate of a nation. When he inherited the Takeda domain, Shingen reshaped everything. He transformed his clan's army into the most feared cavalry force Japan had ever seen. When the red-armored Takeda horsemen charged, the ground trembled like an earthquake. Enemies didn't just fight them, they feared them. But the most dangerous part of Shingen was not his army. It was his mind. On the battlefield, he was a genius tactician. In council, he was a leader who never made fatal mistakes. Yet, there was one man who could stand against him. One man who shone like a blade of pure ice, Uesugi Kenshin, a warlord whose calm, cold precision earned him the title God of War. If Shingen was fire, Kenshin was winter itself, two titans, two forces destined to collide. And then came the day when destiny finally demanded their confrontation. The Battle of Kawanakajima. On the morning of the battle, Shingen stood atop a hill overlooking the enemy. His red armor glowed under the rising sun. His white lion-like hair danced in the wind. He looked less like a man and more like a beast awakened. He knew this battle would be unlike any before, because waiting across the field was Kenshin. The horn sounded, war began. Takeda cavalry thundered down the slope, a red storm tearing through the valley. Spears splintered, shields shattered, dust and blood filled the air. But Kenshin did not flinch. He rode straight into the chaos, cutting down warriors with a speed that made him look almost inhuman. Every swing was deliberate, cold, perfect. Then, the moment that carved its name into history, Kenshin broke through the Takeda lines alone, charging directly toward Shingen. His blade came down like a lightning strike. Shingen did not dodge. Instead, he raised something no one expected: an iron war fan. With a thunderous clang, the sword met the tesson, sparks exploding into the air, their eyes locked. One blazing red, the other frozen blue. Even the battlefield seemed to hold its breath. And then the duel began. Sword against fan, fire against ice, strength against precision. They clashed with the fury of two natural disasters colliding. Horses reared, dust spiraled. Warriors stepped back, realizing they were witnessing something far beyond ordinary battle. The duel raged from daylight to dusk. Both clans suffered tremendous losses. The ground turned crimson, bodies fell, but neither Shingen nor Kenshin yielded. When night finally arrived, Kenshin pulled back his forces. The snow swallowed his silhouette as he disappeared into the mountains. Shingen remained standing amidst the bodies, breathing hard, his armor cracked, his spirit unbroken. But in his eyes, there was no joy, no triumph, only the heavy truth. In battles like this, no one truly wins. The clash between the Tiger of Kai and the Dragon of Echigo became one of the most legendary duels in all Japanese history. Shingen continued his rise, terrifying rival warlords commanding armies that shaped the future of his era. And Kenshin remained the silent snowstorm, unpredictable, unstoppable, unforgettable. But history remembers only a few names as true legends, and among them Shingen's roar echoes the loudest. Even centuries later, when the smoke of war has long faded and the battlefields have become quiet grasslands, the image of the white-haired warlord standing tall in his crimson armor remains etched in time. Takeda Shingen, the Tiger of Kai, a man whose shadow still stretches across the ages. But the story of Takeda Shingen does not end on the battlefield of Kawanakajima. In many ways, that duel was only the beginning of a far greater legend. After the dust settled, Shingen returned to Kai province with a renewed purpose. He was no longer simply a powerful warlord. He had become a symbol, a living force who shaped the future of every clan around him. Under his rule, Kai blossomed into a land feared by enemies, yet respected by allies. He refined trade routes, strengthened castle defenses, and cultivated a network of spies whose information allowed him to predict enemy movements with uncanny accuracy. Shingen understood something few warlords ever did. War is won long before the first sword is drawn. His strategies were so brilliant that even centuries later, military academies studied them. His tactics of swift cavalry strikes, rotating formations, and deceptive positioning changed the way warfare was fought in Japan. Where others saw chaos, Shingen saw opportunity, patterns, and perfect timing. But behind this iron exterior was a man who carried the weight of responsibility heavily. Late at night, in the quiet of his command tent, he would stare at maps lit by a single lantern flame, contemplating the lives of the thousands who followed him. He knew that every decision he made shaped not only his destiny, but the fate of an entire nation caught in the jaws of war. Despite his brilliance, Shingen also faced countless challenges. Rival clans plotted against him. Assassins infiltrated his territories. Even within his own ranks, internal conflicts simmered, for not every man could withstand the harsh discipline he demanded. And yet, Shingen remained unshaken. What made him so extraordinary was not only his victories, but the way he rose again after every setback, each time more resolute than before. Even his rivalry with Kenshin continued long after Kawanakajima. Though they rarely met in person again, each sensed the other's presence on the chessboard of Japan. Messengers reported troop movements, strategies shifted unexpectedly, supply lines were disrupted. Every action carried the unmistakable signature of a duel fought in the shadows. It was as if the spirits of fire and ice were destined to dance across the land long after their blades last touched. Yet in moments when he rode alone through the countryside, Shingen sometimes found peace. The vast fields of Kai, the gentle rivers, the distant mountains, reminded him of what he truly fought for. A land where strength could bring stability, justice, and order. To many, he was a fierce warlord, but to his people, he was a protector. As the years passed, his legend continued to grow. Even enemies spoke his name with a mixture of fear and admiration. Whispers spread, "Where the tiger of Kai marches, the earth itself trembles."